Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of COSA TV. Greg Blanchard, great to have you with us tonight, wherever you're watching. And if you are watching with us tonight, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and that's at home and just enjoying some time with your family or significant other, watching hopefully some good TV, or in this case, some good harness racing video content tonight. We've got three special guests getting set to join me in just a moment. And there's a look at her as Driver of the Year in Canada, Chris Christoforou. So we're going to have a lot of fun here tonight as we welcome the guys to the show. Obviously coming tonight remotely from your home locations. Thanks for joining us, guys. And we'll just kind of throw it around the horn here tonight, have a little bit of fun. You're like a lot of people, you're in your homes and you're trying to keep yourselves busy, entertained, probably watching a lot of TV. Let's start with maybe a good Netflix recommendation. If you've got one, guys, maybe we'll start with Bob.
Tiger King right now. We're hooked on it here, and I know every time I go on social media, I see something about it.
James?
I'm currently watching Arrow on Crave TV. It's pretty good. We're on like season three or something. There's like 7, so we're good for a couple more days.
All right. Chris, obviously missing the start of baseball season. What else are you watching to keep yourself occupied?
Well, I got a 4-year-old at home, so I've watched about 8,000 episodes of Dora the Explorer and all those little kids shows. So, but I did some of that Tiger King. Like, I mean, that is outrageous. Bob is right. It is unbelievable. If you want to be entertained for a little while, I'd put that on.
All right, we'll put that on the watch list. For me, a couple of recommendations. Ozark, Curtis Mcdonald, who's controlling things here for us tonight. He's watching that as we speak, or was watching it prior to us coming on. And Happy Valley's another kind of a hidden gem on Netflix if you're looking for something new to watch there. Speaking of great television shows, one of the very best in recent years was The Sopranos. And one of the memorable characters on there was Christopher Moltisanti, played by Michael Imperioli. And you're wondering where I'm going with this. Well, Chris Christoforou, you are now one of the final 4 in Standardbird Canada separated at birth showdown. And this apparently is harness racing's look-alike to Michael Imperioli, Chris Christoforou. Chris, first of all, were you a fan of The Sopranos? And what's it like to be in the final 4 of this competition?
Well, it's fun. I was a fan of The Sopranos, but the first one of those 2 guys makes fun of my earrings, I'm going to slap them when I see them.
I was giving you a chance to talk,
but
it was coming.
I knew it was coming. But yeah, no, I watch the show all the time. Yeah, I never really, I never looked at that guy and said, oh, geez, he looks like me. But I guess maybe just in the angle of the picture. But yeah, I used to watch it.
All righty. James, Bob, have either of you ever been on the Separated at Birth segment in Trot Magazine?
Yeah, I was on it. I just can't remember who it was.
James?
Yeah, I was on it. I forget. Yeah, it was the guy from like Orange Is the New Black or something. I don't even remember it. I didn't see it on the vote list either, so must not look very much alike.
All right. Well, enough of that. Let's talk horse racing. And as we showed off the top, I mean, you guys have all had outstanding careers in your own right, and still all relatively young guys, healthy, in good shape. So hopefully long careers ahead of all of you. But we thought it'd be entertaining tonight to kind of reminisce and take a little trip down memory lane. And Chris, I know when you were just starting to really make headlines and become noticed as a top driver, not only in Canada, but on the Grand Circuit, was back in the early 90s. And a horse that was a big part of that was one trained by your father by the name of Earl. Just a quick thought. We're going to get a look at a replay in a moment, but a quick thought about what Earl meant to helping jumpstart your career.
Well, he was very instrumental in helping me along, that's for sure. He came along at the right time. I was about, I think, 19, 20, something like that when he was a 2-year-old. And yeah, he took me all over Ontario, Sire Stakes. We won I think it was the Canadian Breeders at Mohawk. And, he was just a real nice colt. He was real easy to drive, which made it easy for me. And I haven't sat behind one since that could move like him, almost like a pacer, as smooth as he was. He was unbelievable. So yeah, he came along at the right time.
All right, so again, we've got Chris Christopher, James Mcdonald, Bob Mcclure with us. And if you're watching tonight, make sure to drop us a comment. If you've got a question for any of the guys or just want to comment, we'd love to hear from you. Chris, maybe just a quick setup here as we show the early stages of this Breeders' Crown Final. Set up the race for us and what you had expected going into this one.
Yeah, well, he had the 9 holes, so the bit with him was getting too far back with him because he was a front ender all the way. And I managed to just kind of squeeze up in behind. I think it was Fax Machine had the rail. And, I left all I could to stay with him. And I think Brownie got in front of me. And like I said, just removed to the front. And he did it from there.
All right, let's relive this Cadillac Breeders' Crown from back in 1993, and here's the call with Frank Salive.
Fax Machine back in second, Charlie 10 Hitch is third, Recourse is fourth on the outside, and his cover is taken by Royal Ballad in second over into the flow, and racing sixth up the inside now is Baltic Achiever, then Super Cobra has gained seventh. Giant Force is well back eighth on the outside, Swagger Hanover is ninth, Get Hooked is 10th, the half in 57 and 3, and Earl trotting comfortably on top by 2 lengths into the final 3/8 of the mile. Fax Machine is in second. Recourse has been laboring from first over. Royal Ballad is going 3 wide in the backstretch. Charlie 10 Hitch is back in fifth. The outside 6 for Giant Force now. Baltic Achiever is 7th. Swagger Hanover is 8th. Super Cobra 9th. Get Hooked is 10th. Earl on the lead. Royal Ballad has gained second. Fax Machine is back in third. Charlie 10 Hitch is off stride from fourth. 3/4, 1:27 and 1. Earl is at the top of the stretch. The Cadillac Breeders' Crown awaits him in less than 1/8 of a mile. Royal Ballad has gone a big mile and is second. Earl, Royal Ballad, Fax Machine. Out in the middle is Giant Force. Earl and Royal Ballad. Earl wins the Cadillac Breeders' Crown in 1:56 flat. Royal Ballad was second and Giant Force was third.
Frank Salive at the call, one of the best in the business, and I think he picked it up in your body language, Chris, turning for home. He could tell you were a winner, even though you had a horse on your back. How good did you feel turning for home that night? Oh, maybe frozen on us.
Well, I have a question while we're here.
Bob,
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead,
that
Bob.
race before or after they added rubber to the wheels?
That was after.
Serious question.
I think he took the purse money from that race and bought those amazing earrings.
And the new Sherwood bike.
Didn't take long for shots to be fired. All right, Chris, I think Chris is back with us. Chris, I was asking you there. Frank called you the winner pretty much at the top of the stretch. I mean, how confident were you? How good did you feel turning for home that night?
Well, I got to tell you, the whole time that replay was on, my feed was kind of cutting in and out, so it was in like slow motion all the way down the lane. I loved it. It was fun to watch in slow motion, I got to tell you. And I can pretend I didn't hear what Bob said. So Frank called it at that lane. Yeah, he was strong and he won quite easily. So it was a hell of a night. Probably one of the best nights of my life because it was my parents' horse, and
Sure.
it was home track and everything like that. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob and James, I think they were just commenting on the fact they weren't there to see it in person. Were you guys even born then? 1993?
Just
1993?
We're aging
Just
ourselves
barely.
a little bit. But you certainly know a good horse when you see it.
Respect your elders, both of you.
Another real good one came along a few years later with your father again, Chris. Let's bring up a photo of Astreos, and this was perhaps your biggest day or your biggest day in your career or biggest win, maybe at the time. The Little Brown Jug. We were going to show this race. Unfortunately, the footage just wasn't good enough to show, but there's the photo from that. We're going to get a look at a replay of him in a moment, but talk about Estrellas.
Bob was going to
Chris,
say
and,
we didn't have video back then. That's what he was going to say.
that was the natural joke, of course.
Yeah.
Estrella, this day, I mean, Little Brown Jug, we don't get to see it, but one of the last times you had to go 3 heats that day. Maybe just talk about that day as an
Yeah, it was.
Go ahead.
Well, it was a pretty stressful day. That's for sure. It was hot that day, and I remember worrying in between the heats about Gallo. The whole time I'm thinking about Gallo Blue Chip, and if I let him in front of me, my race is over. Because he was one of those horses. Once he got in front of you, you couldn't pass him. It didn't matter. I raced against him enough times to know, and I knew my horse couldn't pass him anyway. So. Yeah, the plan right from the start, the second heat was, he ain't getting by, and that was it. And I kind of, coming out of the first turn, I remember kind of shaking my head a little bit, like, don't be coming. And he kept coming. So that's the way it worked out. But luckily, in the last heat, we drew the inside, had the advantage, and it worked out. But yeah, it was a really great day. Another family horse, so that was a lot of fun. And what else can you say? You win. There's 2 races to win, and Bob's won one, and I've won the other one. James, he'll win one sooner or later, I'm sure. But Bob knows what I'm talking about. There's 2 races, and if you win one of those, it's very fulfilling, and you dream of it since you're a kid. So it was fantastic.
Yeah. Purely from a fan standpoint, I mean, 3 heats, that's what you wanted to see. I mean, I'm sure the connections didn't necessarily want to see that, but that goes down as one of the greatest Little Brown Jugs, I think, when you think of the drama that unfolded that day. But let's get a look at Estrellas in action. Let's get a look at another one of his very impressive wins as a 3-year-old. This was at the Meadowlands. And it was the Oliver Wendell Holmes final on Hamiltonian Day. And let's have another look back at that and listen to the race call.
Tiberwood is up on the outside to challenge. Opening quarter in 26-4, and Luke is urging on Tiberwood, and he'll now clear the lead. Estrellas immediately on the attack off his cover, and Estrellas now paces to the front. Ain't no stopping him, right back out and rolling for Campbell up on the outside. Lots of early action here as Estrellas clears, and ain't no stopping him chases, and Tiberwood gaps. He's getting several one-handers there from Luke trying to keep up. Trade sign is parked on the outside 4th. Gehrig is 5th, and ain't no stopping him. Almost had room to drop in, but Tiberwood went enough to close that hole. The half in 54-1, and now forced 3 wide there briefly on the turn. Trade sign, as ain't no stopping him, has room to drop over against the pylons. Following cover, 2nd over on the outside, Mr. Prez. Also advancing Powerful Toy. He's 3rd over on the outside. Gehrig has been shuffled back. He's locked in 7th, trying to find some room. High Fets Hanover shuffled out of it, and by a length trails the field. They hit 3/4 in 1:23 flat. And it is Estrellas at the top of the stretch who's the one to beat. Estrellas is now 2.5 lengths in front from the back of the pack, trying to come on Mr. Prez. Ain't no stopping him, has plenty of room from in between horses. Estrellas under left-handed urging. Ain't no stopping him with 2 lengths to make up in 2nd. Mr. Prez is racing in 3rd, but it's Estrellas. Ain't no stopping him. One last surge. Estrellas to win it. Ain't no stopping him. 2nd, tight for 3rd, may have been by a length in 150.
The late, great Sam McKee, of course, with the race call there, 150. Estrellas came to play on that day. So some great memories, I'm sure, for you, Chris. And Estrellas, of course, went on to be, in what was an abbreviated stallion career, one of the best sires, certainly in Canada as well. So nice to look back at him. Let's switch gears a little bit.
Greg, I'll tell you something crazy about that race there. Going down to the backside just before the half. I think it was just right at the half or just before the half. For some reason, I caught out of the corner of my eye on the right side, right on the outside of the track, there was a cat sitting out there. And it started to bolt towards the inside of the racetrack. And it got it was coming right for my horse. And he just stopped right before my wheel. And I hit it. It came up underneath my wheel, bounced up, and hit Campbell's horse in the chest. And
wow.
Of a race, you think he's going to go right in front of your horse, and he just stops right before it. I don't know why my horse didn't, shy sideways. He must not have saw him, but yeah, cat flipped up and hit Campbell's horse right in the chest. Campbell was asking me after what it was, because he didn't even know what it was. But yeah,
Wow.
Strangest thing, like I don't think I've ever hit anything on the track, as far as animals go. But yeah, that time a cat at the Meadowlands in the Oliver Wendell Homes.
Did the cat make it? I'm going to say no, but
that looks like a no on his
frozen.
face.
Yeah.
It looks like
Similar to
he's still trying to get over it. Assassinating that poor cat.
All right, let's switch
I think
gears
I'm
a little
frozen.
bit.
Yeah. Oh, you're good now.
Let's talk about something a little more pleasant here, and a trotting mare by the name of Dream Together, Bob. You talk about elevating your career in the last 2, 3, 4 years. It's been a meteoric rise for you, and one of the horses that has really helped put you on the map is Dream Together. Let's maybe talk a little bit about her and what she's meant to your career to this point.
Am I stuck there?
Yes. Well, yeah, Dream Together was she was a lot of fun, and Determination had a real 1-2 punch, Emoticon and Dream Together, and seemed every year that Emoticon start off hot, then Dream Together get good, and then at the end of the year Emoticon get good again. But I think every time I picked off one of them, James picked it up and he beat me with it. So I said, that's enough of that. But it was a fun day, the Meadowlands there, when Dream Together just got good at the right time, and really good for that matter. And she won the race at the Meadowlands at John Steele. And then the next week she went back and beat Hannelore, Ariana G, and all of them at Tioga again, Emoticon. So when she was on her game, she was unbelievably fun. Yeah, we had a great. If you want to hear a good story, Greek, the trip back from Tioga that day, because me, James, Doug, and our buddy Jimmy were all there, and it was a fun trip. Anyway, I was just going to tell them the part about Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Oh, we watched Tiger Woods all the way home, winning the first tournament back on his comeback. That's all I was going to say, James. Calm down.
Well, let's take a look back at that race that day, Bob. You were 50-1, so yeah, as you said, you weren't expected to beat the likes of Ariana G on that day. Maybe set up the early portion of the race for you. How did you get yourself in position to ultimately pull off the big 50-1 upset?
Well, she was so easy to drive. There wasn't much to do. I knew I kind of wanted to be mid-pack so I could get out into the flow. I was kind of just looking for a check. I thought Emoticon was our best shot at, getting a big piece of it. And then just the way things worked out, Caprice Hill pushed the pace a bit. There was one made a break in the last turn, so Broadway Donna, she was able to slip out, and I got out on her back, and I didn't have to move till a little ways into the stretch, which helped. And when I moved her, she took off. So it was pretty surreal at the time. It was just a really, really fun day.
I'm going to pick it up at the halfway point here, and let's turn it over to track announcer Ken Workington. This is from Hambo Day 2018, the John Steele Memorial.
Roughing it first over at third, soon to be second on the outside. Broadway Donna back to fourth on the rail. Checkmate Time is gapped her cover now, and Checkmate Time is fifth, and off stride. Off stride, Checkmate Time. To her inside comes Dream Together. And looking to shake loose late is Ice Attraction, stride for stride with Celebrity Ruth. They're at 3/4, and it's still Ariana G, Caprice Hill on the outside, and 3 wide Broadway Donna, 1:23 and 3 into the stretch drive, and it's Ariana G put to the test here. Caprice Hill got the cold shoulder, but here's Broadway Donna, and here comes Dream Together and Bob Mcclure on the outside looking for a huge upset. 4 across the track, Ariana G, Broadway Donna, Dream Together on the outside, Dream Together coming on, Dream Together at 50-1, 151 and 3.
All right, Bob, describe how excited you are when you hit the wire and you know you've gotten up.
Well, that was really exciting, and that was another special thing about that was the day Scott and Rick won the Hamiltonian, and Doug won the cane. So I thought that was a really good look for us. I mean, I know Scott's American, an American driver now, but I still think he's Canadian, and he drove up here for a long time. And Doug went down and won the cane with Stay Hungry. I won that race with Dream Together. So, it's fun
And
to
I cheered
see
you guys all
Canadians.
up from
Yeah, that's because that's where you were, James, at home.
home.
Had you driven
No,
in
but
a
that
major stake
was
before then, Bob, at the Meadowlands? I believe you had before, correct?
Not at the Meadowlands, not a major
Okay.
one. The Horse and Groom, but that was one of the season
Right.
closers.
Yeah. So how were the nerves? I mean, you're on the biggest stage. It's Hamiltonian Day. All eyes in the harness racing world are on you. It looked like you handled it well.
Well, I'd had a few drives that day for Luke and one other one, so I was calmed down by then, and there weren't a lot of expectations. So when there's not many expectations, you don't get too nervous.
Sure. All right, let's turn our attention to Mr. Mcdonald here and talk about some of his achievements. Maybe as well known for anything as his success in the Bouncy Pony Stakes at Grand River. He had quite a run there. How many years in a row were you the defending champ there on Industry Day?
I think it was about 6, but I haven't fared out too well the last couple of years. I don't know, getting old. I guess my legs can't. I don't bounce like I used to.
It's a young man's game for sure. What is
Yeah.
the secret to winning in that anyway? There's got to be a little secret to it.
Well, I think a lot of it is I don't know. You got to use your legs a little more than people think. Like you got to get a good push with your legs, and you bounce up, but you got to spring a little bit with your feet. And people that just bounce, they're always way back. For
Sure.
you young kids that are going to be coming up and challenging me in the next couple of years, at least keep it close.
Yeah. And one year, didn't you do it blindfolded one year?
Yeah, I did it completely blindfolded the one year. I think I was in the lead, but I like went right across the track. It's harder than you'd think to go straight on those things.
Sure. Okay, it looks
I
like
took
we've
advantage
lost.
of his blindfold.
Yes, you did. Kelly put the blindfold on me, and
Working out?
Bob. Oh,
Yeah, it works.
yeah.
We're working on Chris. I think his son Nicholas is helping him, which is great. We've got some tech support right in the home, so hopefully we'll get Chris back on with us in a few moments. There, we hear him. We hear him.
We hear him.
Hopefully,
Oh,
there
there
he
he
is. We
is.
see
We
him
can
now.
see him now.
Welcome back.
Did you hear my cat story?
We did.
Yes, we did.
All right.
Yes, we did.
I thought I wasted it.
Actually, that reminds me of a Ron Pierce interview where at the end he asked if we saw the skunk walk across the track. So, well done. Good timing.
But we didn't
we're
get
just
to hear,
about to have a
Chris.
look
Did the
back.
cat make it?
I don't know. I don't know whether I didn't look back to find out games at that point.
Well, they have 9 lives. They used up 1 there most
Yeah.
likely.
Well, he hit 2
Hopefully the
horses,
cat
so I
made
would say that's 2.
Yeah, he took a pretty good shot. I'll tell you that.
All right, let's get back to another race from last year. James Mcdonald, the biggest payday of your career to this point, and it came with Courtly Choice. Set up the race for us. Courtly Choice, he had kind of an up and down year last year. How was he coming into this race? What were expectations like?
He'd been really good the 2 starts right before the Derby, and actually 3 starts maybe. He flew, or I cut it out and he won, and then I was first up the next week and I was second to Jimmy Freight. But I mean, we were pacing pretty hard through the wire. So I thought if I got him in the flow, or if I could get some kind of a trip, lather up was unbeatable at the time. But I was hoping for a chunk if I could get a toe into it. And obviously, it worked out better than I could have ever imagined.
Alrighty, here's Kenny with the description of last year's Canadian Pacing Derby.
Richie P, a single file trailer on up to the midway point. Pacer single file at the half in 54-1. That's how much respect Lather Up gets. Lather Up goes into the final turn, and he had them lined up at the half. This is the plan as second. Jimmy Freight is third. Dunwell is underway fourth outside now as McCarthy hits the gas pedal. Back into fifth as they pace the turn is Western Fame. So they're coming after Lather Up here. Outside pressure from Dunwell. Right there from in third. Boy, as this is the plan, a handful for Gingras. He's climbing over Teagan Lather Up. To the outside from fourth is Western Fame. Jimmy Freight escapes off Pylon's fifth. 3/4 in 1:22-1. So Lather Up survived that final turn. He comes into the stretch now, gets a slap of the wheel this cure from Teague. Lather Up is still there. He's put away Dunwell. Dunwell on the outside into second. Now up off cover comes Western Fame, roaring up from way back. Could it be Courtly Choice playing Giant Killer? Courtly Choice sets sail, and it's Courtly Choice with a stunning upset in the Canadian Pacing Derby. 148-4, Courtly Choice at 34-1.
So Courtly Choice, he certainly had a nose for the big money, it seemed, and he came up big on the biggest stages, and this night was certainly the case, James. Tell us what your mindset was going into that last turn. We talked to Blake McIntosh, the trainer, recently. He said he didn't like where you were sitting when he watched the race unfold, but he certainly liked the end result. What were you thinking going into the final turn?
I didn't know. I knew I had a lot of horse getting into the last turn, and then when Dave dropped to the inside, my horse kind of went on, and then Scott kind of come out a little bit. But he was the type of horse, if you could keep him on the bit and in the right frame of mind, turning for home, he would just, when he was on his game, he will give you a vicious kick for home. And we straightened up, and he took off on his own. When I pulled the plugs, it was just, he was just pacing out of his harness. So it was a really good feeling for sure.
And he would buy a lot of good horses there as well. Got a comment from Daryl Laver. Chris, I don't know if you saw that, talking about a win for your father with a horse called Barry and Crash. Is that correct?
Barlin Crash, his name was. Yeah,
Barlin
he was a nice old trotter. He was an old condition horse there. And yeah, he was my first win at Greenwood, actually. Yeah, I remember the race. He sat third the whole way, and he was boxed in. We got loose in the stretch, and he got up to win. Nice old horse.
Yeah, just quick thought on Greenwood Racetrack, Chris. I unfortunately didn't really. I think I was there as a young child once or twice when I was visiting for PEI. James and Bob wouldn't have gotten to drive there. What was that like? What was the atmosphere driving at Greenwood Racetrack back in the heyday?
Oh, it was a fantastic place, and I think a lot of the guys that were there at the end, I think we all wished it would have, instead of going to Woodbine, we would have stayed there and made a mile track. We had a 5/8 there, but there was a mile track thoroughbred on the track on the outside. And man, if we could have had that during the slot years, I mean, it would have just been unbelievable. But things go the way they go, and we ended up at Woodbine. But as far as atmosphere, I mean, it was just every character you could imagine from downtown Toronto in the grandstand, and it was always a lot of people. They're always full, and it was a fantastic place.
And I'm sure a lot of people tuning in tonight remember the Greenwood days too. So thanks to Daryl for dropping us a line here tonight as well. We saw James a moment ago playing Giant Killer in a big race. Chris, you had the same case scenario back in, I believe it was 1999. The horse called Super Grit. Just tell us what this photo is all about.
This was walking back to the winner's circle. He just beat Moneymaker, going, I think it was a mile and an eighth. I think we went, I think it was a mile and an eighth. And he raced Super. He was a real nice horse, but he wasn't ever that kind of caliber. He'd been knocking on the door, thirds, fourths with those horses. But that day we were in Montreal, and he got a real good trip. I ended up clearing just before the half, and Moneymaker came, and I let her go and sat in behind her and just got by her down the 10 feet before the wire. He just stuck his head in front. So it was a real nice day. Another time where the grandstand was full, and The only thing I had to carry an American flag around, which I didn't enjoy very much, to be honest with you, but I had to do it because he was American owned and he was the American entry. But yeah, other than that, it was a heck of a day.
Yeah, the good old days in Montreal as well. Another one of those venues that we remember fondly, for sure. So we're sticking on the theme of Giant Killer. Well, we all remember that first Saturday in August from last year, this past year, when Bob Mcclure engineered a massive upset in the Hamiltonian final with Forbidden Trade. Bob, I remember seeing you that day in the paddock location earlier in the day, and I was really taken with how calm, cool, and collected you were. Being that you're going to be racing in the biggest race in the sport, what were your emotions? What were your expectations going into the day?
Well, I don't think the world had a lot of expectations for him, but I expected him I thought a top 5 finish was very realistic in the final, not just the Olympic final. He was racing great here, like amazing here. And I think if he wins the good times, he would have had more respect. But he got locked in the good times, got free 50 feet from the wire, got beat ahead. He's just an amazing horse. And James and Chris will tell you, there aren't a lot of nerves once you get in the race. You're just dialed in, you're focused. But this is a 15-minute post parade, and I went out and I scored him, and then I walked him. I had to score him again because he just laid right in my lap and calmed down. Like, he's just that nice a horse. So, that calmed me down like crazy. Just having and especially a 3-year-old colt trotter, he's just a sweetheart, So it made my life a lot easier. And he's so handy. You can put him wherever you want on a racetrack. You can touch the gate, time the gate. So he deserves all the credit there.
Now you get out on cover here, Bob. Looked like you're in a good spot, but you start to gap a little bit. Just walk us through this portion of the race.
Well, they were going pretty hard in front of me, and I thought that Tetrick would maybe come back on the turn. I didn't want to get jammed up, so I didn't see any hurry. I was just kind of keeping the bit in his mouth and relaxing, and the best horse in the race was behind me, so I wasn't really thinking about those two in front of me as much. But when I moved him over, he kicked, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Did you think Green Shoe was going to go by you at this point?
He did go by. He was a half length in front of me, and I actually, if you watch, I stopped driving because he's by, and then all of a sudden mine starts to dig back in. He kind of hangs a bit, and I go back to driving.
Forbidden Trade with a gigantic upset. Forbidden Trade. Green Shoe.
There it is, a gigantic upset. So, how did life change for Bob Mcclure after winning the Hamiltonian?
Well, it's hard to explain. It changes your career. Like Greek said, there's races that not many people get to say I did that, and all the stars need to line up for it to work out. But you think once you got it, maybe you don't appreciate it. You do every day. Every day you wake up, you get to be able to say you won the Hambo or the Jug or the Canadian Pacing Derby or World Driving Challenge or the Bouncy Pony Stakes and stuff like that, But it was just a fantastic day. And when I spent a lot of years driving at London, Flamborough, George, and Grand River. I saw a lot of you there, right, Greg? Every single track I saw you there. And then I thought it was pretty fitting that you were the one doing the post-race interview in the winner's circle, that day. And I think I said to you, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, yeah. Two Canadian guys in the winner's circle at the Hamiltonian. And as you mentioned, 2 years in a row, the year before Scott Zeron is there and you're interviewing him. So a couple of young guys that you saw start kind of from the ground up here. And Chris, for you, I didn't get a chance to really go back and look at the statistics today. You've driven in the Hamiltonian final before?
No, never.
Never did. So there you go. That's
not yet. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm trying to get something there. Yeah, it'd be fun. I can tell you that.
It really shows it's not something to take for granted, because a lot of great drivers go their whole career and never see it, let alone win it. So you really appreciate it after.
Yeah, for sure. But one race Chris has had success in as well is the Breeders' Crown Series over the years. And going to take a look back to another one, Chris, that I'm sure will make you smile. This is back in 1999. And you played Giant Killer here with a nice colt by the name of Grin from Ear to Ear. Can you set this one up for us?
Yeah, I got a call like the week before the eliminations there from Brett Pelling, and they were looking for a driver for this horse. And I was happy to go with him, that's for sure. And I think he won his elimination, and then we drew the 7 in the final. And Lyle had a good horse in there. I can't remember his name, but he was kind of leaving harder than I wanted to, and I was going to duck in behind him and remove, but I figured I'll keep going. I think I could sense that Blissful Hall was, right in behind me, so I kept just rolling to the front, and I just let him go, and we rode the pocket from there.
And with your colt, the way he was coming into the race, did you think coming in that if you got this kind of trip, you could threaten Blissful Hall, maybe beat him?
I thought it was the only way I could beat him. I thought, if I'm going to have a chance to beat him, it's going to be off the 2-hole, because he wasn't that great on the turns. He had to be on the inside. And I was lucky in this race, too, because as you can see, Piercy pulled the earplugs coming out of the first turn because his horse was a little too quiet, he thought, for him. And when he pulled the plugs, he just took right off on him. And I think Ronnie had a hard time rating him from there. And I think that was the difference in us getting by.
Yeah, that's just a subtle little detail that's interesting to hear from your perspective. Let's have another look at the stretch drive of that Breeders' Crown and call with Frank's lead.
Stretch drive. They passed 3/4 in 1:23 and 1. Blissful Hall turning it on. He's got 2 lengths, but Grin from ear to ear is coming out on him. And down the center of the track, here comes Sign of Success. Grin from ear to ear. Blissful Hall going to the bottom, but Grin from ear to ear has got him. Grin from ear to ear is the Breeders' Crown 3-year-old Colt Place champion. Island Fantasy took second, then Blissful Hall, and Sign of Success. Grin from ear to ear. Mohawk track record in 1:50 and 3.
It's taken down by Grin from Ear to Ear, and one of Chris's highlight victories in a great career. Let's talk about what you can do, guys. I mean, this is new territory for everybody, but yourselves, you've got to try and keep yourself sharp for when you do return to work. Can you do anything at home, like be working out or anything like that, to try and keep yourself in good shape and ready to go when we are able to return? Start maybe with Bob.
Well, I kind of went through a mild break last year when I was off for 6 weeks, so seems to be a spring thing I have to take off. So, but I think this break might be a little longer. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I right now I'm going to the barn every morning and driving horses, so I think that's the best way to stay sharp. I mean, you can go to the gym and work out, and obviously you have to stay physically healthy. You gotta eat right, but I think the best way to stay sharp is be driving horses every day and having your hands on some lines. I think if you're not doing that, you'll lose an edge.
James, same question to you.
Yeah, I actually might turn the camera here and show you guys. I got the lines hooked up to the wall, and I sit in the chair, and I just, go at them pretty good. No, but
oh,
rude. Okay. Well,
just for those watching in, Curtis is in his ear saying, "Do you still get away last?" His brother Curtis.
Throwing digs.
Yeah.
But no, I think Bob's right. You gotta stay comfortable anyway. So I go in. I'm lucky. My brother Anthony has a barn full of horses, so I've been going in the mornings and I ride for him and train and just try and stay sharp, because I can't speak for Bob or Chris, but I know even when I go on vacation, when I come home, when I'm off a week, I just feel awful on the bike, and I just takes a couple days to get back to where you feel like you're you again, and so at least training in the mornings and stuff, it keeps you on your toes a little bit.
Chris, same.
Yeah, same for me. I'm the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I go in every morning.
So, Chris, I mean, the guys are taking a little fun at your expense here tonight, the elder statesmen of the group of three here. But we look at those early days. I mean, that's when you were in their shoes. You were that young guy coming up and starting to get noticed and win the big races. And you've had a long, very productive, consistent career. And here you are, and you're still at the top of your game. How good do you feel? Do you feel like you're a better driver now? Do you feel like you're just as good as you ever were? I mean, where's Chris Christoforou at in his career that way?
Well, I think if I was driving, just as good as I ever was, I think it works like that a lot. It's a lot to do with the stock you're driving at the time, I think. I'm a little older now, sure, but I feel good out there. I feel pretty good. At 48, is my timing off? I don't think so. Am I as sharp as I was when I was 28? I think I'd have to be a fool to believe that. But, I still think I got a lot to offer. I do a pretty good job, I think, especially with a young trotter and younger horses. So, I enjoy it. I try to, keep doing it night in, night out. I think I'm pretty consistent on showing up every night, and I think that's important. I think if you're there all the time and you keep grinding away, you'll get a few good horses here and there, and that'll keep you going. So that's what I try to do. And, I know the great glory days are behind me, but at the same time, I'm not anywhere near ready to hang it up. That's for sure.
Right. And you're at a point where you can reflect, and there's a lot to reflect on tonight as we've been doing. But the 4 O'Brien Awards as Canada's Driver of the Year, when you think back now, I mean, that's got to be something you're really proud of.
Oh, absolutely, Greg. You're right. It's they're not hard. They're not easy to win. That's for sure. And I've been a finalist a few times and lost, and they're tough losses. But at the same time, when you look back at it, well, I was there and I was that close, so I'm doing something right. So I'm real proud of those, and I think I'm just the test of time is more what I'm proud of than anything. The fact that I am still here, still doing it, and I'm not the only one by any means. There's other guys too, but I'm proud of that fact.
For sure. And one thing about it, you guys, you've been here a long time, and as the guys, I'm sure you can all attest to, it's a grind when you're driving year-round, night in, night out. You put a lot of hours in, you put a lot of miles on your vehicles, and it can be a bit of a grind. So I'm sure it's a lot of fun when you get to do something outside of the norm. And James, you got a great opportunity a couple of years back to represent Canada at the World Driving Championship. Maybe just talk about that experience, what that was like when you knew that you would be representing your country and putting on those Canadian colors.
Well, when I found out, I mean, it was just I didn't even know what to say. Everyone around horse racing knows I'm a big sports fan. I'm a huge Penguin fan and Olympics and stuff like that. I never dreamed in my life I would ever get to represent Canada. So when they asked me to wear the Canadian colors, it was it was really special, and I'll never forget it. And then to have the success I did doing it, it was unbelievable.
Great shot there of the entire group of drivers. What was it like to meet the other guys from the other countries? That had to be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, made a lot of new friends and stuff. This picture's actually from Sweden last year, but the 2017 group, it was like Dexter Dunn and Marcus Miller, and we had such a fun time. Todd McCarthy had came with the Australian representative, and we just had so much fun as a group. We were out together every night, and we were all great friends, and by the end of the week, we were all cheering for each other, and just to cap it off in PEI, I mean, was special. I mean, being from PEI and to win there was unbelievable.
Yeah, I had a chance to be there this night. An electric atmosphere. It was the Friday night of Old Home Week. The place was packed, and you would think it was Gold Cup and Saucer night. And very unique to see this in Charlottetown. You had larger than normal fields going, I think you were going at a distance, if I'm not mistaken, in some of the races. But had to be a big thrill for you, and maybe just talk about the night in general, because things didn't really go the best for you that night. Was it a case of just bad luck and bad timing, or what went on that night?
Yeah, it was just a bad night. Well, it was a great night, obviously, but I think this race, I moved to the front, don't I? And then I end up, my horse, I'm going by in front of the grandstand, and John Hennessy had a huge crowd in the infield, all partying. They all walked out to the track. This is like a 10 or 11-year-old at the time. When I went by the party, the horse ran out in the middle of the track. The whole field went up the inside of me, and now I end up parked first up the whole way. It was just everything that could have went wrong racing that night went wrong. But I just had such a huge lead, and the crowd. Greg had talked about it earlier. Like when you win in front of a big crowd like that, and like you said, it was electric. Like every time I would jog by the people at the like beer tent and stuff, they would go crazy. They were all wearing red and white. They were all waving Canadian flags. It was like I can't even explain to you how cool it was. And the day before at the parade, like every time they'd say my name, it would just erupt. Like I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, and boy, it was a lot of fun to watch this night, because I mean, there was action. Every one of those driver challenge races, action from start to finish. It was so unpredictable from a fan standpoint. It was incredible. What was it like to be driving in it?
Well, when we got to Quebec and then PEI, I mean, it was different. 12 horses. This is Dexter coming on the outside now, the 6. But the huge fields, like it was such tight driving, and we would jam up, and it's just like everyone always says, oh, there's a Canadian style. Well, there's no real style when all the horses are from all the drivers are from different countries. It's not like, oh, you line up and move. Like we kind of create your own style as you go, because it's just so different from anything you've ever done before. So it was really different. It was very fun to do.
Oh, it's freezing too.
Oh.
All right, we've got a question here from Rob Fellows. Chris, watching replays reminds me of all the bikes and how they've evolved. So if you can hear me, Chris, Rob's question is, did you or do you have a bike that you favored through all the different evolutions over the years?
Start with the wooden tie down.
Right.
Still loading.
You can't.
All right, we'll see if we can get him back. We'll pose that question to him. Thank you, Rob, for the question.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Hey, Greek, what was the wishbone like?
He's texting, trying to figure out what's right. He's probably texting me.
Yeah. So we'll get
now
that
he's texting
question
me.
to him a little bit later. We'll get that to him a little bit later. But yeah, James, fun to watch that race. Unfortunate, I think the race we watched. I mean, I think if your horse hadn't shied from the crowd, I think you're an easy winner, right?
Yeah, it was just.
You win a big trip.
I was just trying, so hard at home. I just wanted to win one, because I'd won at every track, and then you go home and, my mom takes the pictures, and all my friends from school, and like
both of them,
all two of them, yeah. But it was just an unfortunate night. But I mean, they all got to see me raise the trophy after, and it was
Sure.
a lot of fun.
Bob, if you had the chance, I mean, what would it mean to you? Is that something you'd like to do at some point in your career, represent Canada?
Oh, for sure. That'd be way up on a bucket list. I can't even get a top 3 in a regional though, so I don't know if it's ever going to work out, or even if I'd be a good representation, because I clearly suck at drivers' challenges. But no, I'd love to, yeah, and it would be a lot of fun to go and travel somewhere to represent, and equally special to represent Canada on your home turf. But no, I think it's a great thing we have in our sport, and it would be a blast to be a part of it.
You touched on driver challenges. You guys, from time to time, get to take part in different tournaments. Some guys seem to have a knack for it. They always seem to come out near the top, if not winning in these tournaments. Other guys don't seem to have much luck. Is there a secret to a driver challenge? Is there an approach that you take going into them? We'll start with James.
Ask Jody. Jody's the king of the driver challenges.
Yeah,
Trevor too.
Trevor's
Trevor's really good. Trevor's really good at them too.
Yeah, he is. I don't know. I never had a lot of luck in the regionals until that year. Like, I was kind of like the first couple times I was like looking at, they draw the regionals and I'd be like, oh, the nationals are in, Australia, or that'll be fun this year when I go to that, and then I finished last in the regionals, and I finished last again, and I finished last again. I'm like, geez, I'm terrible at these. And then that year in Grand River, I had a really good lineup, and it was just one of those things, like, if I needed the pace to be hot, it was hot. No, it wasn't. It was at Grand River, Curtis. I'll bet you anything. Yeah. So, it was just everything. Like, I think after 4 races, I had like 3 wins in a second. Like, it just worked out perfect. And then, the rest is history.
Chris, just wanted to ask you, have you ever had a chance to represent Canada and wear the Canadian colors?
I'm embarrassed to say I turned it down twice. And the reason it was because both times I believe there was a couple of big stake races right at that time, and I had decent horses going into them, and I ended up going. And I have one regret of my career. I really wish I at least would have went once to see, but I never did. No.
That is a component of it. When you opt to go in, I believe at the regional level now, you have to be willing to make that commitment should you go on and win the whole thing. So understandable. There have been times where guys have had to pass up the chance, unfortunately. We had a question, Chris, as well, while you were getting your technical issues resolved. Rob Fellows, guy that you've driven for a lot over the years, had a question asking specifically about race bikes and the evolution of them over the years. Did you have a preference, or did you have a favorite over the years?
Well, there's 2 sides to it, and I'll tell you, my favorite bike to ride in was the Cheetah bike because it was so comfortable. It was really, like, these guys would have loved it, believe me. I don't know if they ever even got to set in one, but they were the best. They tracked completely straight in a straight line. They were unbelievable. And I bought one, and I think it was about 2 months later they banned them. But I fear that the way things have gone, that the speed these horses are going and the size of the mile tracks and everything like that, that we're getting very far away from the horse. And what bothers me with that is horses coming off the pace, they have to make that extra distance up. And if you think it's not much, you have to take in consideration that, each place, you put the bike in the quick hitch, 1 forward, 1 forward, that's another inch, that's another inch, that's another inch. Now, guys that they're pulling it all the way back, and racing the horse from the farthest, position away, you're looking at least 4 or 5 inches, on each horse, just from the quick hitch, moving back and forth. And then the length of the bike is longer. It's very difficult now for horses to race off the pace compared to what it was, when the bikes were right up tight to them. And I worry about that because, like I said, it makes it a little bit more boring. And I've heard over the last, 10, 15 years, especially, about how boring racing has become because the front end holds so much. Like when I started out, it wasn't like that, especially on the 5/8 mile tracks or the mile tracks. Horses could come off the pace all the time, and it was very common. And now it seemed to have, gone that way. And I'm a little suspect, about these long bikes, but it's the way it is right now. Who knows? 5 years from now, we could all be, riding right up close to them again. And somebody come up with some new bike, who knows? But that's my concern with them.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Even the posture of drivers nowadays, as we look back at some of the old footage, drivers now, you lean a lot further back. The guys were more straight up then. For Bob and James, maybe a thought on that? I mean, you guys, I guess, didn't know anything else, right? When you started,
No.
I mean, that's just the style.
Never got to ride in the tie-down double wide Sherwood wood pinstripe. So we don't know. The only thing I agree. It's hard to come from off a pace. That may be a culprit. He's seen both, so he'd be a good advocate for it. I think the horses are also lasting a lot longer. They can go a lot further, a lot faster. One thing about our bikes now, I don't know, Chris, are they a lot more narrow?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot more narrow. And
yeah, so it's got to be easier to go 3 wide and such now with these bikes, no?
oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But, like I said, I don't know, I don't want to come in here and say, oh, they're, it's better this way or better that. I don't know what's better. But like I said, all I hear lately, in the last how many years is how much it's changed about horses can't come off the pace as much. Now, maybe it's nothing to do with the bikes, who knows? Maybe it's more, like you said, the horses are, a little faster, a little stronger, can do a little more, whatever. But that was my only concern with them. I like personally being a little away from the horse, especially, you get horses that, kick a little bit or whatever. I don't mind being farther away myself, but like I said, my only concern is for the fans and for the people that, bet on them. And, I hear a lot of complaining about, the way guys sit in the bike and this and that. Like, Bob, you don't lay back much in the bike at all. James leans maybe a little more than you. For you, it's not I'm not saying, you're making a big difference that way, but I see some of those guys. I mean, oh my goodness, Teacher.
Yeah.
And
like
I love Teacher as a driver,
gets,
but I mean, sometimes I wonder, can he even see where he's going? Like he's laid right out, on these things. It works for him.
He's the only one. He's the only one I can see.
I don't know.
Like
There's got to be a point. There's
really
a happy medium, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, guys.
A lot of it's
Go
the
ahead,
bikes
Jay.
too. The bikes are so underslung now. Like it's so much more comfortable to sit like that than to sit right up on them.
Right.
You're almost forced. Like the way you get in the bike and you're sitting like that. You get in the bike and you're sitting like that. So it's.
Okay. We have to take the good and the bad here with this technology.
Yeah.
But, there it is. It's a real interesting conversation, guys, and I hear what you're saying, and I think it's a combination of everything. It probably is the bikes. It's the way the breeds evolved. I mean, we've bred for speed, and it's incredible when you watch standardbreds versus thoroughbreds and how much the speed has evolved. And I would agree from a fan standpoint. I'm not sure if it's been a good thing. Something like the Meadowland Shuffle that we used to see doesn't exist anymore, and it's kind of a shame. But who knows? As you said, I mean, we might look at ways to try and level the playing field and change that a little bit. The role of the catch driver, it's interesting. It's a very unique profession, and one of the downsides to it, we're going to bring up another replay here, is that
that's my favorite Canadian
oftentimes
pacing
have
derby.
to choose
the best race of the year that year.
It's a good problem to have when you get to choose between really good horses and big races, but you don't always pick the right one. James, maybe you can take us back to this race back in 2014 and a real top horse called Modern Legend.
Yeah, I actually have a funny story about this, and I didn't even think about it until after this year. This year when I won the Derby with Courtly Choice, someone had come to me later, and they were like, well, you deserved it. It was supposed to be like that. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, Dave, you booked off Modern Legend to drive Captive Audience this night, and Dave won the Canadian Pacing Derby because of it, and then he declined the drive on Courtly Choice, and I ended up winning it. So it's kind of like it wasn't payback or anything, because we both ended up winning, I guess. But it was just funny how it worked out.
Yeah,
but he was such a great horse. Like he was so good in the Elam. He was fourth, but he come like 25-1 on the end or something. Like we just walked. And, I went with Captive Audience. I told Dave before I was driving him if they both made the final. And I was telling you guys earlier, I was so pumped when I was fourth. I was like, oh my God, I was fourth in the Derby. And I was like on cloud nine. Then I looked up, I was like, is that Modern Legend?
And you're back, I think second from last on the inside here. So your horse really gets home with authority here. But Modern Legend, big trip, kicks off cover and wins at 47-2.
Yeah.
So right in here, yeah, your eyes certainly aren't on Modern Legend, but what are you thinking right here for your horse?
Oh, I was just driving. I was like, geez, I'm going to be third or fourth. And then, like, he exploded again. I was like, geez, I might be second. I'm driving. I was, like I just said, I was so pumped. And then I'm like, is that Dave? And then I instantly went to regret.
We don't want to put you on the spot too much here, but tell us about, if not this particular instance, sometimes the decision that goes into picking one horse over another. What are the variables that usually go into that?
Well, I think this particular instance, the horses were both, fringe players at the time. Modern Legend was 60-1 that night. They were both great horses, but when you got foiled again and Sweet Lou and them dropping in there, I mean, you're hoping to compete, So at the time, Corey Johnson, I think he'd had a big stable of horses, and I went with his horse, and Dave just had the one, and Dave understood that. He was always a professional to drive for, and I ended up driving him after that again lots. So it's a tough call, especially when you get these big races. I mean, if it's an 8-claimer and you make the wrong call, you say, well, I tried to do what I thought was best, and it didn't work out. But when it's 600,000 on the line, and you're fourth, and the one you booked off just set a track record, it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. We'll ask Chris and Bob. Maybe we'll start with Chris. Ever an instance in your career where you picked off one that won a big race, or vice versa, where you picked up a driving circumstance? I think he's frozen again. Bob, I think he's throw that over to you.
Not that I recall. It's yeah. He's back.
There he is.
Shoot,
he's gone again.
All right. No, I can't recall one. I'm sure it's happened times. I've been on the beneficent, and I've bet I've lost some over it. I just turned the page. It's not something you can control. It doesn't bother James, no matter how much I bug him. It doesn't seem to bother him, but it is part of the game, and there's nothing you can do. And I've seen a lot of drivers do it, and top drivers. I've seen Yannick pick off top horses at Berks that went on to be great, like the best of the year. And it's always hard, though, watching a horse that you were supposed to drive go out and win a big race.
Yeah, like he had Pinkman and Mission Brief that year. I mean, like it's...
Yeah, that's impossible. That's not fun
like,
at all.
what do you do? They both win the Olymp, but I mean, it's... like I always say to the guys or anyone that asks, like the people I drive with on a regular nightly basis they're all terrific. They're all amazing drivers. They're all the top of the top. So I mean, if it's no insult to me for them to jump on a horse and win with it. I'm just happy to be out there and doing well. And I don't jump for joy when one sets a track record that I booked off, but you can't let it bother you either.
Sure.
No.
And in terms of James, it's a good point. I mean, you said you're happy just to be here, and you're considered one of the top drivers in Canada now, but maybe different than the other two guys that are on the line with us here tonight. You didn't get right into it as a youngster, did you? You had a couple of your brothers, obviously Mark and Anthony, heavily involved, but you were a lot later getting into it than they were. When did you finally catch the bug?
Yeah, I never really had any interest as a kid. I mean, I grew up at the track. I was always at the track. I worked at the track, so it was there. The driving and training and owning it, even working with them, never really excited me. I think when I was done my first year, when I graduated high school, and started to get up here stable, and I came up to help him for the summer, and I didn't enjoy it that much. I went back home, went to school for a year, and then same thing the next summer. He had more horses, and he was super short, and family's the cheapest help, so I came and helped him again, and I really had a great summer, and I ended up staying up, and I just I caught the bug there. I guess but it wasn't until I was 20 years old, and I didn't start driving until I was 23. So. Well,
it's amazing to see where you've come in a short time. Chris, look back to the start of your career, was there ever anything else you were going to do, or was driving in your DNA, so to speak?
Yeah, no, I was hooked in at a young age. I remember I got a driving suit when I was like 6 years old for Christmas. So yeah, I was in right from the start.
And Bob, same question to you. A family involvement?
Yeah, family through and through. I grew up with my cousin watching races, but my family, I had an uncle that drove. His name was Jim, but and my dad trained a lot, so I learned to drive them there. But it was driver right from the get-go. The only thing I had any interest in was being a driver, and I was a stereotypical kid, beating up the sofa, with binder twine lines and a Hot Wheels track. And I remember every Sunday morning I could get up, and they used to put the Woodbine replays on all Sunday morning on the Woodbine site. So Saturday morning at Woodbine in, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, those were amazing nights to watch for horse racing. And I wish that we could go back to that. Those were fun nights. You had the Open and the Junior Free for All and the Fillies, and you just had so many amazing horses. And when I was 6 to maybe 10 or 11 or so, I probably because of the races, but I was a huge Greek fan, huge Greek. And 99 was the first time I ever went to Mohawk, and it was I went to watch. I don't know, it was a different one. And Grin from Ear to Ear won the Breeders' Crown that year, so that was pretty cool. And then, then I was, at the end, I was a huge Mark fan when I started driving, and I got to drive a little bit with him before he left, but I used to love watching him drive too, Mark Mcdonald.
Yeah. Who's better, Mark or James?
Nobody has to answer that.
And did Chris give you an autograph back in the 99?
No, he was quite rude about it, really.
Did he?
He'd have his nose. He'd have his nose up in the air and his big earrings on.
Sounds like it's a little tough in that driver's room. And that is something that people might wonder. What is it like in the driver's room? I mean, you guys.
It's not a nice place, Greg.
It's ruthless. Ruthless is what.
You want to be in the room because you don't want to hear what they're saying when you're not.
Exactly.
And I think Mark was known as a big practical joker. I think. Is there someone in the driver's room there now that takes over that title?
Yeah, Chris Bays is pretty funny. The valet there, he can get under people's skin pretty good, but in a friendly, harmless way.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be for practical jokes because no one really likes getting them done to them. Like everyone likes dishing them out, but then when you go to put your shoes on, they're nailed to the floor or something. It's not that much fun.
Sure. And we had a question a moment ago from Tony Elliott watching in tonight. Thank you, Tony. Do you guys feel there's a rivalry between the U.S. and the Canadian drivers? That's a good one. You don't see each other all the time. Generally, it's on the big stages for the big nights. Talk about that when the U.S. guys come in here on a big night, or conversely when you're down there on days like Hambo Day. Bob, we'll start with you on that one.
No, I don't think there's a rivalry. I think we're definitely competitive with them, but they're unbelievable to watch. At least 5 of them are definitely on their own level, and when you drive with them, it makes you a better driver just watching them. Brian Sears, T-Trick, Dexter Dunn, Andy McCarthy, those guys are and not stopping at them, but those guys are just unbelievable drivers, not only for their positioning, but the way they can make a horse go. And unfortunately, I got stuck on a tarmac and I didn't make the Meadowlands Pace Limb this year, and Brian Sears picked a drive up and the Best of Show won. And people said that sucks, you lost the Meadowlands Pace. I would have been 4th in that race, without a doubt. And no doubt in my mind I would have been 4th, because there's not a chance I would have rode the wood all the way till about an 1/8 from the wire and waited for it to open up. I'd have been out and rolling and saying I might finish 4th, but I'm going to give it every shot I have. But Ryan Sears won that race for sure, and they are fun to watch.
Yeah, I
James?
mean, I agree with that. I mean, I don't think there's a rivalry. We all get along great. Like Yannick and Dexter and Timmy and Ryan. They're all great guys, and you know we can have a beer after or whatever and have fun. But you know, I'm sure they're the same way. They root for their buddies they hang out with all the time, and you know, when Bob or Greek or anyone's in the States racing, I mean, for the most part, we're gonna cheer for the Canadian. You know, it's not as much a rivalry but you know,
Supporting each other.
They're supporting each other. Yeah, exactly. And it's not to say I'm not cheering for them. It's just I want to see the guys I'm gonna be around have success. So that's my thought on it.
So, Chris, I'll maybe ask you a different question. We heard Bob talking about 4 or 5 of these guys and how they're on another level in terms of their driving skills. You've seen a lot of great drivers. What makes a top driver? What separates a good driver from a great driver in your mind?
I think it's all to do with strategic thinking, patience, and knowing your horse. I'd say those are the most important things.
And Bob, you talked about guys that can make a horse go. Top drivers seem to be able to get more out of a horse than an average driver. Can you explain why that is? I mean, it's
a hard thing to explain, but I mean, you can see extremes. You can see when maybe somebody who's a very good horseman and a top trainer and maybe drives their own horse for 4 or 5 starts, and then they put a catch driver on it. The catch driver is just going to get more. They'll just get more out of them. Whether it's they try harder for them, maybe they have them more awake, but they just seem to go longer. And the guys at Woodbine, that was something I've always admired is and Chris is good at this too. The last 1/8 of the mile, a lot of times they don't start them up to the mile and get that speed to carry. And I think that's a big thing the top drivers can do is get horses to carry the high rate of speed for a period of time.
Yeah, Jody used to always say it. A good saying for that. He used to say, like anyone can get a horse to go fast, but the great drivers or better drivers, they could just make them go faster for longer. Like they can just carry it a little more. But like Bob said, it's impossible to the naked eye to explain. The average Joe or whatever, they just say it is what it is. But it's just like any other sport. Why does Alexander Ovechkin score more goals than someone else? He's just the gifted goal scorer, and that's
right.
Why is Tim Tetrick such a great driver? I can't explain to you why. He just is.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap it up. We've gone a little bit over time, but again, a big thank you for taking out the time and joining us tonight. It's been a lot of fun. Hope we're back doing what we do soon. And it'd be great to see you guys all back in the bike. And when we do return, I want to wish you the best of luck. So thanks again.
Thank you.
All right,
Greg.
Thanks.
All right, Bob Mcclure, James Mcdonald, Chris Christopher, 3 of the very best in Canadian harness racing. And we thank you for joining COSA TV again tonight. We'll do it again in the coming days. Leave you with a look again at the career statistics of these guys. Combined well over 10,000 career victories and close to $200 million in purse winnings, and still many great years ahead for these 3. So thanks again to our special guest tonight, and stay tuned to COSA TV online for upcoming events, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday night.